but I know you're supposed to know your audience, but I do, this makes it fun. Most of the sea stories I would like to share with you start out with, well, I was really messed up. I was on liberty. So that's not the impression we want to impart on our young men and women that are aspiring to be future officers in the United States Navy. So I often started out, I was on my way to Mass. Go from there. All right, this one is a fun sea story. It involves my father, and it's in 1989. My squadron was supporting the USS Moose Rudder. It's a Bruins-class destroyer, and the ship was sponsoring the Tiger Cruise from its home port in Charleston, South Carolina to New York City. Now, for some of you that don't know, a Tiger Cruise is a short underway period where sailors are allowed to bring either a family member or a close friend on board the ship, and they get to watch what you do. And so we call our guest a tiger. So my dad is my tiger, and he's going to come along with me. So Dad flies to Charleston. Rick, was this after your wedding? Where are you, Rick? Were you married in 1989? You were married in 89, right? Yeah. So it was after Rick gets married. Dad flies down to Charleston, safely makes his way out to the ship, and finds his rack, and he's going, damn Navy. And he's looking at our accommodations and the fact that you don't need mosquito netting, and you don't have to spray some bugs and all that kind of stuff. You have a nice big rack, and you have all kinds of space to store things.
Yeah, right.
Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm talking about my stateroom. All right, now, so Ellie and the kids and I, we had returned to Jacksonville at that same time because I was going to be flying on board the next day after the ship gets underway from Charleston. Flying out to the ship, my aircraft commander, and he's also the officer in charge of our helicopter detachment, Rob Pressler. He was all frustrated. He's a real hard-charging, tactical kind of guy, gung-ho. And he's frustrated. Now we got all these crazy little tigers going to be running around the ship, creating havoc and getting in the way of our flight operations, and it's just going to be a royal pain in the rear end. So he's not too excited about having these tigers on board. And so here we go. Being a good junior officer and co-pilot, I dutifully said, "You're right, Rob. This is going to suck." But 25 miles out from the ship, we contact Mother and we say, "Hey, we're 25 miles out, requesting a green deck for landing," and Mother reports, "We're good to go, come on in and land." So with the green deck, Rob lines up the aircraft on final approach, and we're on our way in. And everything's looking good. I'm reporting instrument performances and altitude and airspeed and closure. And all of a sudden, the next thing I know, we're leaving. And I'm going, "Hey, where are we going?" And he starts getting on the radio, and he's yelling at the ship. And I catch in every other word, "damn tigers." And as we're flying by the ship, I'm looking down at the ship, and there's this person down on the fan tip with the camera. Where are you, Dennis?
I'm right here, Dennis.
Show your camera. The camera is something like that, you know. Snap, 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 snap. All right, so we're flying by the ship, and I'm looking down, going, "Yeah." All right. Well, needless to say, Rob was not happy at all, and he really let the ship know it. He insisted that the ship make it perfectly clear to all the tigers that they must remain well clear of the aft end of the ship. That's not the pointy end, that's the flat back end there. During all flight operations. Okay, so while Rob is tearing into the captain, or expressing his disappointment with the ship, I'm trying to find the courage to say, "Hey, Rob, that was my dad." So let's see. So I'm trying to get the courage to tell Rob that it's my dad, and being an Army guy, it's no big deal. Having deployed to Iraq, and I'll talk about that later, they fly over the top of you all day long. They'll land right here if you give them the signal. They're crazy. They have no idea of safety. So So, for my dad to stand out on the fantail of the ship, because the flight deck, for crying out loud, is still 150 feet away, what's the problem? You're going to land up there, and I'm down here. Why are you so upset? So, anyway, we got Dad off the fantail, cleared out the zone, and came in, and we successfully landed the aircraft and had ourselves a grand old time at sea. My dad was so impressed with the firepower of this destroyer. We saw, there was a submarine out there that was shooting torpedoes at us as part of their training evolutions. And then we saw, there was an A4 jet flying around in the area, and he's towing a drone, 10,000 feet of cable behind him. And we shot a Sea Sparrow missile at him. And so we're on the starboard bridge wing watching this happen. Whoosh, there goes a Sea Sparrow missile. And then after that went off the rail, then the 5-inch 54 guns, kaboom, 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 kaboom. And they're shooting at this drone as it flies by. And then you guys know what the Sea Whiz is, the R2-D2 looking little Gatling gun. Then it fires, and all that comes by is a cable. They completely destroyed the drone that was attached. So my dad's just going, this is great! All this firepower. Being an artilleryman, he was a kid in a candy store. Alright, so we had a wonderful time. And to top it all off, at the end of this, we get to go to New York City for Liberty. And my Lord, that's when the fun really began, because my brother Mike drove down from Boston, right? To spend the next couple of nights with us in the city. All right. Yeah, he's, what do you call that? Stowed away? Yeah. All right, but that, however, is a sea story that can be shared later and with a much more select crowd over at the grill with a couple of cold beers, all right? So without further delay, because I have done a few tangents here and I don't want to take much time. Ladies and gentlemen, today's guest speaker, my father, Lieutenant Colonel John Geisen.